Well, next up, I don't even know if she needs an introduction, actually, but I will introduce her. Mollie Carmichael, most of you know her. If you don't, you want to get to know her. She's been in the industry for 25 years as a builder, a developer, consultant, working with many of you in this room. And she's actually going to take us not necessarily down in vision specifically, but really talk to us about merchandising and the magic of that, which again, as our LEK friends told us, this is really merchandising, and we really are retailers. So we thought it would be great to have Mollie come talk to us, very topical about merchandising in the industry. So here you go.
Well, that couldn't have set me up better. That was perfect, and it was a hoot to watch the video on the buyer because I've lived that so many times. 10 years as a developer working with a lot of the builders in the industry, with the Irvine Company, and I spent 10 years on the builder side too. So living through all those nightmares, and I was one of those people who put together that book that was 4 inches thick that we'd hand to the sales associates and say, good luck to you, man. I hope that works for you. So we're gonna talk through really powerful merchandising. And when Melissa talked to me about this, I thought, gosh, I've done merchandising for sure. I did it for 10 years, but the challenge is I don't know how to do anything without starting with the consumer first. I'm a huge believer, and I learned this, and it's how I got that book that was 4 inches thick down a lot, and I got a lot more strategic with my builders and now the partners that I work with today. So as we dive in, I'm just gonna go through this real quickly, a little bit about Meyers research. We work all over the country. We've got 10 offices throughout, and our goal, frankly, is to give you a lot of really good information real time to make better decisions. Our parent company, of course, is Kennedy Wilson, which is a very big real estate company worldwide. As a decision-making process, whether you're doing options, merchandising, whatever you're doing, these are really sort of the key ingredients for me. And I'm gonna pull from some of those ingredients as we talk about doing powerful merchandising. You've got to understand what markets you're gonna be in, who that consumer is, and really, you can simplify the merchandising process, the options process, if you simply think about who your buyer is, what they want, and the things that they value. So that's kind of what we're gonna go through today, is a little bit about that consumer, what's valuable to them, and then we're gonna go through how that really applies to a great way to approach merchandising. I have a couple of case studies for you as well. I thought this was a great quote. It's perfect for today, and I think this is perfect for our industry. I think if we set our bar too low and you reach it, you may think you're doing great, but I think the goal today with technology changing, as Tim mentioned, is really to set it high and reach for the sky. And I think there's so much opportunity for change as we go forward. So before we start, 3 key ingredients. This is your biggest challenge today. We just launched a big consumer study. We're gonna continue to launch that with the help of BDX and a lot of the builders and developers. We have some builders on board. We'll start reaching out in the next month. But today, and this is consistent with the research I started back in 2007 with nationally with new home shoppers, 25% of your consumers, of all the consumers that walk through your door, so that's 1 in 4 of every person who walks through the door, doesn't have to move. They're happy with their home, but if you give them something better, they'll think about it. 25% are dissatisfied with what they're seeing. So that's a big challenge. The other thing that we've got to deal with is there's generational differences. Everyone's really wants to talk about millennials. There's some similarities and there are some differences there, but as the last presentation showed, everybody can make decisions digitally. Everybody wants to be able to see it, to believe it, before they buy it. So there are some differences, and we do focus a lot on that, but there are some similarities as well. And then last but not least, right here, okay. Today, because of those devices we have and that they can check you against 100 different other brands real time, they really are the brand today. And that's an important part to think about. I know working for big public builders, I was so focused on our brand, what we were selling, what was important to our company, and unfortunately, we just can't do that anymore. They are the brand. We have to understand who they're about, and we've got to market to that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as we dive in. So as we go forward, let's talk about the 5 key ingredients. Okay, so 5 key ingredients. The first one is we're going to prepare. So we're going to learn a little bit about who they are. 2, we're going to define what it is that they want, kind of the who, what, where. Support, engage, and lead. And as we dive into that, on the prepare side, again, we want to figure out what's motivating. Why would they move? So if 25% have to move and they're dissatisfied, and another 75% are, what's going to motivate them today? The second one, as we get into prepare or define, we want to know really what are the things that they want. That's going to help us really simplify the whole options process and how we merchandise and who we're merchandising to. The third one is, my batteries are going here, is support. The more you can make it simple, as you saw in that video, giving them that big, huge book, that's a big issue. It's overwhelming. I just recently went through a kitchen remodel. I've been doing this for 30 years. It was overwhelming, all the choices. I would have loved for someone to have made that easier for me. 4, engage them. You got to give up that control and give them the control. With Envision and so many other great platforms out there, they're able to really see what they want and who they, the parts and pieces that they want. And last but not least, you got to lead them and show them great solutions. So we're going to dive into that, and I'm going to show you some consumer research as we start out. We just launched this survey called designitforyou.net, and imagine if before you're putting together all those options and all of those things out there, if you had an idea of what it is that they wanted, and you could take that 4-inch or 5-inch book and bring it down to here and say, we know exactly what you want. We've put together simple solutions for you, whether it's packaging and things like that, and I'll show you an example of that. But first, but the most important thing really here is what's motivating them to purchase. So we asked amongst all these things, whether it was location, price, community amenities, prestige, safety, you name it, what are the top things and how did that rank? And interestingly, I looked at this by buyer group, and the top 3 ended up being the same. So the top one, of course, is location, location, location. For millennials, price will rate a little bit higher depending on what that is because they're really just trying to start the game. But for all of our homeowners and shoppers out there, home design is in the top 3. It was pretty surprising when I first did this research. It beats things like safety, community amenities, accessibility, all of those big factors that we focus so much on. But home design, particularly for the new home shopper, that's actually why they're coming out to a new home community. They want more control as it relates to design. In the last presentation, you saw that Zillow really could be your biggest competition because they're showing all these beautiful pictures. In my opinion, it isn't because it's not their taste. I go through every single one of those and think, I'd have to change that and that and that, and that would cost me that and that. And so that really is the beauty behind new home buying, is I get to choose everything and it gets to be designed exactly for me. So the other thing is, and I'm gonna hit, I asked probably 5 different ways to make sure I understood what design really meant and was it really what I thought it was, because design is such an ambiguous word, right? So we asked them, are you looking to reduce your commute time because location was so high up there? Is it you're moving because you want a bigger house? Or is it really about design? And it was unanimously, 47% said it was about better design. Then we asked them about, okay, is it about better design, better location, size change? Again, same things, lower maintenance, again, newer features, number 1, and also lower maintenance. As we looked at, are you moving for life stage reasons? Are you having a baby? Is it kids? Is it, your kids are moving out? Again, 42%, I'm moving simply because I just want better design. Now, granted, 59% were moving for life stage changes, but still, that's really big, and so it's really compelling that you get that design piece right. We also asked them, do you want us to pick the options? Do you really want us to sort of kind of think through everything and make that decision for you? And there's a lot of great platforms out there that include those items. Or do you want to make those choices yourself? Or just give me the lowest price home And as you can see, 59% said, it's really important for me to be able to personalize. It's why they're showing up in your sales offices today. So they really want choices, but they do want you to make it simple. That's huge. And so now let's talk about the who, what, why, when, and some of those choices you can help to sort of simplify for them. What is it that they want, and how do you incorporate that into your merchandising? So who are they first? This is really a big change from the last research that I've done over the last 10 years on a consumer side. 50% today are family. It's largely been non-family. 52 to 56% has been non-family in the last 7 years. So the millennials are here. They're starting to show up, and the millennials will hit in their largest form in about 2022. So that's important to know. And also the boomers will also be hitting 65 in their largest form and turning over in 2022 too. So we'll start to see that momentum continue. But the huge thing is that's great for home building, because we're going to start to see a lot more activity because they are the most mobile buyer. Don't forget their pets too. Certainly there's a large number that have pets. And what's interesting to me is about 1 in 3 of them treat their pets like royalty. And there are some great implications in our research and the kinds of things you can do in the home. I've seen people make decisions over things like dog parks or certain accommodations for the pets as well. Stylistically, so when we look at things, we showed them a bunch of pictures. You can see some of those little tiny pictures. And if anybody wants copies of these slides, please come see me after. I'm happy to send them over to you. But we asked them with pictures and with words, what's your interior style? So when you're thinking about merchandising, who do you design for? And as you can see, it was a pretty eclectic mix. So that's why when you look at sort of virtual platforms, in addition to the models, what if I'm super modern and I'm walking through a very traditional model? That could make or break a sale. So if you can quickly switch flip the switch and actually look at that in my style, that's a big deal, and that's going to help you sell homes. But you can see it's pretty diversified. On the whole, we actually did see still a vein of the most traditional, but we're seeing a huge sweep going to modern. You'll see that in some of our answers. So again, as we asked about modern versus traditional, we actually did see a rise heading towards modern, and you'll see some of that. So we also ask them silly questions like, what kind of shoes do you wear? And I know that, for some of you guys out there, you're thinking that's a ridiculous question, but really what that does is that tells me who they are. What do they do on the weekends? How do they, what's their style? And I've made entire community redirections based on things like this all over the country. But the big news here is you're going to see they're a much more casual consumer today. And I do see my younger consumers more likely to wear flip-flops, and I do see my older consumers more likely to be a little bit more formal. And some of those things will help you make those decisions. As we ask them about yard size, I do a lot of focus groups. And when we ask them, tell me about what you want out of life, I would tell you 75% of them, and we'll do side collages where we'll give them images and they get to build their own side collage. 75% of just about every side collage they build is about the outdoor space. And it's about connecting with that outdoor space. So understanding that's huge. But as we all know, affordability is such a big deal today. So how do I give them a big yard, a big house, and all the things that they want? Well, the key is really showing that that outdoor space is manageable for entertainment and still meets all the needs that they want. So 72% when we asked them, will you take a smaller yard if we just show great entertainment outside? And we had a 15-foot backyard that we showed in the image set up for great entertainment, and 72% said yes. And that's the picture that we showed them. We also asked them about new things that are becoming a big deal. So how many people here actually get a package or two at least once a week or once a month? For sure, right? We all do. So then the question is if you're here and your package is showing up on your doorstep, is the neighbor going to take it? I mean, what happens to that package? And so we've now got to start thinking about how do we merchandise and how do we make space for where those packages go. The mailbox has to change, and we're now, I think, going to see package stations or some form of a new kind of mailbox. happening in how we show it, and you should be merchandising for that. We also ask them about additional things that take space, that are important to them, like pantries or that back service kitchen or the butler's pantry. And the number one spaces they always wanted, of course, were organizational spaces. The pantry is such a huge option, and we asked them probably 4 different ways. Will you pay more for a better pantry, a more organized pantry? And in this particular case, and by the way, in 80% of the questions we ask, we don't just say, do you want it? We say, will you pay for it? Because everybody wants everything, but if you can't really afford it, that's important. But we asked them, would they pay another $2,500 for that premium pantry? So give them those organizers. That's huge. And again, merchandising and showing them those choices are huge. For the Asian market, we also wanted to test the wok kitchen. I know the wok kitchen, once you get over about $4,500 in price, it tends to be problematic, but you can still trade out that pantry for a pretty great wok kitchen in that category. So we test that too by different ethnicities. We also asked, kitchen's huge. So I'm hitting sort of the big ticket items. There's a ton more here, but recess versus a raised cabinet. The differences in that from a cost perspective can be a solid $2,500, if not more than that. But the reality is about the same number of people, and this doesn't change by price point, by the way, liked the recessed kind of shaker. It's a little bit more modern. It goes modern and traditional for that cost difference. And so when you're looking at that, it's an easy standard. It's easy to pay the extra, but that's easy money in your pocket, and spend the money in categories that they want, like better appliances, things like that. Color choices. This is where Envision and all of these different platforms that we do can really make a difference, because everybody wants their style today. And because of that fabulous device in their hand, they can get it, and they're testing it. They're looking at 100 different ways to do it. I know I went through it with my own kitchen as well. But look at all the color choices that they have today and what they want. It's interesting, Java has been the most popular cabinet for the last 7 years, and white is clearly the first guy on the deck there, and they definitely are the preferred, but you can see there's all different choices, and we're seeing a lot more of those modern cabinets now coming up, and consumers actually wanting those, and I noted those as well. This is always a big debate. I know this being on many frame walks. Do you keep the tub? Do you do the big shower? The shower that I think could be like a locker room shower these days, and a lot of these models, they're huge. But 62% still want the tub. And when you're showing different vignettes or choices, again, in the option center, to be able to visually see that tub disappear, to make it an option is one thing. But if you can't show them what that's going to look like, very difficult. But 62% want the tub, yes. You know what? Over 55 years of age, it's still 52% want the tub. And a great example of that, I walked a model, I'll use it, Cal Atlantic now, under the Lennar platform. And they had all big walk-in showers, and it was a 55-plus neighborhood. And I said, what would you do different? Their models were gorgeous. Only one thing, we'd show half our models with tubs, because half our buyers took them. And their biggest objection was they couldn't see what it looked like with a tub, so they had to wait for the tub to be built to see if they liked it. Good question, though. And feel free to interact. So those are the images we showed. We showed the shower and the tub, and then we showed showers actually so that they could see really what those big differences were. And I tried to make them equally luxurious. Oh, another thing, interestingly enough, from our last survey, the last survey that I did, is the popularity in those designer tubs is actually growing. We do ask them to pay another $2,500 for that designer tub. And prior, it was not very high, but it actually rose in popularity for sure. And I'll show you some options on the merchandising side. So dual shower heads, a great way if you're gonna do just the shower, that's great. Dual shower heads, it was a huge number. You'll see it there, about 66% said they'd pay that $800 for the dual shower heads. And another 39% said they'd actually pay extra for that steam. So I think I asked them another $2,000 for steam. Sauna didn't rate as high, but I think it's less known. The man cave. So when we're looking at garage spaces, I work with I don't know if any of you have worked with Nick Leonard at KTGY. We're constantly kind of prototyping new ideas because I get all this great research that we're trying to do something with it and come up with new ideas. And he's like, why don't we build like a super garage? And they did vignette and did some fun virtual things with this. And so I said, we got to test it, Nick, because no one's going to do it unless we test it. And so we did. And it was interesting. In the garage, we said if we were to do sort of extra space, it doesn't even have to be 10 by 10, but if we created kind of that man cave, how many people would actually pay another $10,000 for that? And it was 66%. That's a big number. The surprise for me was volume in the garage. 40% were willing to pay another $10,000 for that. So that's another really interesting thing. But the garage, I've done a lot of research on men versus women in the purchase decision. Sorry, men, but 92% of all purchase decisions are led by a woman. And I would say 92% of the people designing homes usually is led by men. But I do think it's really important to know the differences. And women are really focused on things like the kitchen areas and those I'm going to call them nurturing spaces for the family. And men tend to be really focused on outdoor space, the garage, and things like that. There's some fun stories behind that. I won't go into those today, but what's that? Yeah, the 8%. Well, the interesting thing is I really studied that 8%. The 8% is actually those that are building custom homes because it's about the building in it. But that's, yeah, not a bad point. And I've worked with plenty of single men, gay men, you name it, to help them buy their home too, because they want that validation and some of that stuff. But it is true. It's an interesting, I did a whole year of research on that. So the fireplace, this was interesting because I've tested the fireplace the last several studies I've done, and I couldn't believe how low the modern fireplace was. But this time, 56% prefer the modern fireplace, and I'll show you the two pictures I showed. A pretty traditional fireplace on the left and a pretty modern one on the right, and that modern fireplace won this year, so that's an interesting one to follow. As we're sort of wrapping up, I think this is my last one that I asked. We have tons on technology, we have tons in other categories too, but I wanted to hit sort of the big ticket ones that I thought you'd be interested in. The last one was the staircase. I mean, you could spend $10,000 on a staircase. So we asked them all of these staircases and showed them pictures of it. And I personally love modern, and I like the clean half-wall modern stair. It's inexpensive, it looks great, and so I wanted to test if it was a zero value, how that would kind of compete with the rest. But the top were the wrought iron stair, and we did ask them to pay another $7,500 for it. And then also the transitional stair, we asked them to pay another $2,000. That transitional stair, if you look at the form, it's a really cost-effective stair. Square posts, half wall at the top, very clean, and those were the top two, the wrought iron and that transitional. So there's a ton more that we could share on, but we've got 45 minutes, so I thought that was my best. So, and they do change by geography. I would tell you there's different, I call them zones throughout the country that we can help you categorize how that looks by zones and also demographics too. That's the fun part. So now let's talk about support. How do we actually make this all simple? We just went through a bunch of information on what consumers want. We talked about sort of what's motivating them to buy. And if design is really what's motivating them to buy, I have to know what they want. I have to know what their hot buttons are. Now, how do I not give them that 5-inch thick book to make a decision? Because I have to tell you, I'd walk out and throw my hands up and say, honey, let's just remodel. I'm good. I can't do it. So we're gonna take all this homework and put it together, and we're gonna look at, I'm gonna use a case study. How many people here have seen or heard of Garmin Homes Fresh Paint? That's actually good, because I think they're doing some of the coolest stuff. It's a tiny builder, and actually the president's a woman, and she really looked at this from a, how do I make this process simple? I'm gonna take you through how they take their consumers through it. So I call it the 9 and 3. They basically have 9 easy steps. I know when I was with Pulte, I think it was the 7-step process, Linda, and then it went to the 9-step process, right? Well, they made it 9 steps, 9 easy steps in sort of 3 big categories. You've got your floor plans, so let's find which home works for you. Then they let you design the home online. And then you can also go through all of those plans together if you want to sort of kind of match on what looks for you. And when you pick your plan, this is one of their plans, I like how they categorize the spaces. So if you look at the wheel to the right, they basically say, of all the square footage you're paying for, because you're paying certain dollars per square foot, this is how much we're putting into bedrooms, this is how much we're putting into entertainment. They even have a little category for drop zones. And they kind of tell you a fun little story about that plan. And then you have to engage them. So now you got to give up that control. I know that's hard sometimes. And now let them steer. Let's let them drive. And so that's really what they do next. And this is all online easy to actually make it simple. So we're going to dive right into step 2. Now, here are all the choices. In this particular case, I just picked this one. We're going to dive into this community. Then they give you these are all the plans, or these are all the lots. You can pick which lot you want, and it sort of tells you which ones are sold or not. I picked a sparse neighborhood. They have like 7 or 8 of them. You should check it out online. And you choose your lot. And then they give you the houses to choose from. In this particular case, I chose this one. You can sort of by price or size or whatever, or you can open up one floor plan and just kind of move back and forth between the plans just to compare them. It's pretty simple. Then on step 5, when I get to the floor plan I've chosen, I'm now going to go through and I'm going to pick my elevation, and that's going to have some impact on my floor plan, or I can choose my options that are most important to me on that floor plan within this step, okay? So I'm going to pick my elevation, and you can see instantly how that changed to the right. So it had some impact on the floor plan, so it shows you that change. And then I can choose the colors for my elevations. So I can kind of flip through and choose those different colors, and in this particular case, I chose the Ava color collection. And then from there, I can actually see where that plan is being offered and now what's available. So I picked my lot. I picked lot 43. It was a big lot. And then this is where I kind of pull the magic in. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Whether you don't like this scheme or not, they have 15 different categories that they've come up with. And I would tell you it's easily done with your research, or frankly all the great information you get through Envision or the platform that you're working with. And then you can choose different ones. So this is called Cigar Bar. If I really want the most popular kind of traditional look, this is a great look. And again, flooring, cabinets, counters, everything changes with it. If I was targeting an older buyer, this is probably the most popular style right now. It's called Modern Traditional. They named it Llama Llama Ding Dong. But, they're catchy and fun, right? And if I was going for a younger buyer and a little bit more casual, I would kind of take that same look and just throw a little wood and a slightly more modern look to it. And that one's called Boogalicious. But anyways, so there's great ways that you can look at what's selling, what do they want. Take all that consumer research you did ahead of time, instead of saying, okay, now go pick your cabinet. Now go pick your backsplash. There are consumers that are still going to want all that stuff, but I love the categorizing and giving them a head start and saying, look, these are some really cool, great, selected by a designer. And in addition to that, now add your own personal touches through the Design Center. So at the end of it, you get this whole package. And it basically says, okay, here's what you selected. That's your house. There's your color scheme. And then you can actually save this down into a brochure. So here's my brochure. I can come into the sales office and say, I want to walk this home. By the way, that's the house I want. I picked my lawn. I picked my exterior. That's my floor plan. And this is what I want my kitchen to look like. And again, you can do different categories like this in bathroom and things like that. So the next part of it is, now it's kind of the show me the money stage. I really want to see it in person. I did all this cool stuff online, but does it really look like that? And what's the quality like? So then they basically give you these 4 big categories, and they're going to show you real life examples of this. So let's look at some of those examples that they actually showed online with interiors to exteriors and so forth. And it's really simple. So interiors, you can instantly go through and view their different interiors. And I personally am a fan of the still shot, so you can actually kind of clearly control the views without having some distortion to how you're walking in. But they do have a virtual side of this too that I'll show you. So you can actually go through each one of those. In their homes, they not only allow you to have these packages, but it allows you to have a color wall too. So you can pick sort of these primary walls where you pick sort of one great accent wall that actually goes with that. The exteriors, they show you their kind of charming exteriors, but they don't just show you all the great stuff. You can kind of view and see the side of the house, the back of the house, the little details that they actually thought about. But it's really simple. That's what I loved about this one. Kitchen and bath, again, kind of the same thing. Oh, I don't know if I want a red island. That could be a little much. They showed in real life, and you see it, and it's great. Outdoor living, much of their outdoor living in this particular community was a lot about the porch and the decks. It was a small lot product, but more important than ever on a small lot product, to actually show how that lives. So you can see the cute little porch on the outside and even the outdoor deck, some of that stuff, and you can just kind of visually go through this on your phone, on your computer, really super easy. Last but not least, they do have the dollhouse view or the virtual tour too. So if you go to Target, you can get the little, have you guys seen the little cardboard box that's like 20 bucks? But even the goggles today by Sony are only like $55. But if you just happen to have an extra sort of virtual mask with you, you could do that online as well. Or you could also do it in the sales office. I would tell you, the biggest opportunity, and I've done a lot of workout work, I've done a lot of builder acquisitions and mergers, and going through all the backlogs throughout the country, the homes that sell are the ones that are modeled. It's like 75% of all your sales are the homes that are modeled. But I believe that can change with virtual. And if you can show them virtually these homes, hey, go touch and feel the stuff, the quality of your builder, go see the kitchen. They're a great builder. You can see the quality in their homes. Now I'll give you a virtual tour of some of the other homes throughout the country that it's exactly this floor plan. You can see how it lives. I think that will give them the confidence, and your sales absorption will absolutely go up. And then add the opportunity to see different options and things like that. It's a no-brainer. It's definitely going to help you. So you've obviously got there's your little cardboard box. You can choose how you go through it. And of course, the little circles on the floor help you literally take the tour yourself, or you can just hit the play button, and voila, it takes you through a virtual tour naturally. So super simple and easy to use. And really, I think, again, thought out to make this a very simple process. So there's the view as I'm inside the home. Again, if you just drop your cursor on those different circles, I can move throughout that whole entire floor plan. Or again, I can control it just by moving my cursor around as well. So if they visit now you got to really show them the excitement. And the key is, if design is the number one reason they're going to move, and again, your competition's more likely either the home they're living in today, or for millennials, it's just a budget thing. It better be exciting. You've got to have some wow out there. I'm just going to show you some of the key things that I think you can do and apply this to big or small, any price point. And I'll start with the first one, and you'll smile because this may not be something you'd think of for a townhome or a small lot product. But the reality is, this just makes better space. If you're looking at a land residual and you're paying $300,000 to $400,000 a lot, this $15,000 option is going to make that 10 to 15 foot backyard feel a whole lot better, and it's going to pay for itself. Now, if you're buying lots for $30,000 a lot, this may not make as much sense, but certainly on the higher end, this makes space better. I believe in function at any size. I saw this in Sacramento, and I loved this, and they used the side yard. They put a slider on the side of the dining room. It made that dining room space, and it was a tiny little cottage. And when you opened it up, it was like a little serving center. They set it up as like a little kind of a pot place, but it literally, not pot, but plant pot. But anyways, but it was really adorable, and it added some character to the space, what was otherwise very small, but really great. And any space, whether it's the balcony, whether it's over on the side yard, this was the little sort of courtyard they do on the side. What I would tell you, when we looked at backyards and we asked consumers why yard space, private yard space was so important, the number one reason, what would you guess it to be? Entertainment's usually the first one that comes up. The number one reason people want outdoor space is privacy between their neighbors. So I really like how they showed this space, because that little wall with the bar in front of it just instantly made for privacy. And it really sold this home. And just the little extras that make ordinary kind of extraordinary. Davidson Community has just put these little lanterns kind of hanging in the trees as you kind of came down the street, coming into this community, and this extraordinary outdoor space. They kind of took that theme all the way into the homes. Maybe not something you'd show up in Envision or some of your virtual, but great merchandising, I thought. I think outdoor space, particularly when you're doing modern, they tend to be more of an artsy sort of person, so kind of making that livable, but that art and entertainment together. And also when you're sharing backyards, just simple done well. If you're selling to a buyer that's just trying to get in and they want a simple backyard, don't block the space and make that backyard feel small. I love this backyard because they took all of the landscaping and stuck it on the edges and made that whopping 15 feet feel big. So it was a really nice way to simply show a great backyard. Retreat space, this is an example of how you can show the big shower in the area where they actually had the sinks in the master. They actually showed this bathtub, but that bathtub was optional. You could take that bathtub out, and in the back you had this glorious shower that was set up as well. But you can also, another great way, that tub can easily come in or come out, and you can see actually that tub coming in or out, and just making it easy for them to understand. And you can see that tub is sort of shooting through the middle. It cuts the space down. I like the turned designer tub. Those are easy things that you can actually show them online and show them different ways to have that tub. Romance definitely sells. This was a cool little feature in a project in Southern California. And this was actually in Phoenix. Modern's definitely on the rise, and you can just see sort of that sleek, exciting entertainment. Now, memorable spaces, things that you won't forget. Now, this is kind of man cave-ish, right? It's a very high-end man cave, and on the side of it, they had the whole door open with this great little kind of bocce thing going on. But what was exciting behind this was the glass behind it and the Porsche sitting in the garage. I mean, these are things that you can't replace, and just fun little memorable things that you tell your friends, like, you have got to go see this project. It's incredible. But, again, sort of special merchandising things that make you want to come back. I was shocked how much they got in price, too. I will tell you, great merchandising, if you think through it, I have seen it add 15 to 20% in price, and that can be substantial. So it is really crucial to do it and do it well, and same thing on the option side. If they can see it, they'll buy it. If you're kind of piecing it together and trying to help them figure it out, you're a lot less likely to buy it. Indoor and outdoor function, again, those just memorable little extras. Last but not least, this is actually going into a sales office. Engage them from the beginning. You want them to hang out. And this was, I think, probably the best sales office I've seen. They actually had like a little outdoor bar set up and a cute little patio set, and it made you want to hang out. It was really, really nicely done. So technology, I did not put a lot in technology. I'll be really honest with you. It's probably the thing I'm not seeing enough of, and I think there's a huge opportunity. TriPoint's probably doing one of the best models I've seen actually in technology, where they have the man cave. It's almost like you clap your hands and the shades go down and the TV goes on, and it's really awesome. I think using Amazon to help sell your homes, your sales associates, as much as you want them to, they're not going to walk every customer through a home. So if you set up those categories to actually answer questions for you with a live voice, it's pretty cool, actually. If you're asking about things, how much they cost and things like that, I think there's some opportunity to take technology to the next level to help you sell, in addition to the fact that it has to be in your homes, and it's all about time. So just help make their life easy. So I'm going to end with, this is a famous quote, you guys all know it, so insanity is doing the same things over and over again but expecting different results. There's so much opportunity, I think, in the future. I hope you embrace it. I hope you want to learn more, and we're here to help you learn more. So anything we can do to help you with that, with our team, just feel free to give me a card on the presentation. I'm happy to share, and we're doing a lot more too. So I'm going to end with these 3 words. So reach, understand who your consumer is at every level. It's not just age, it's lifestyle. I'm a big believer it's more lifestyle than age. Inspire them. Inspire them to make that move with some fresh solutions and doing things that are different. And if you think you're doing all great things today and you're feeling pretty good about it, you're probably behind. So you've got to constantly be changing with this ever-changing world that we live in. It's moving way too fast for me. But help us invent better solutions. You really can make a difference, and we're here to help you do that. So with that, I'm going to end. Any questions?